small movements were taking place, where the state-sponsored terrorism was taking place. Police stations were utilized to run into vandalized Tamil homes, take their ladies out, rape them unanswered. If any youth or youngster from the Tamil area raises his voice, the white man will come, take him up, and no one knows what will happen. Those type of spurted crimes were taking place in those periods. This all culminated, and led down to a militant struggle. A lot of military outfits were developed, a lot of rebel outfits were developed against Sri Lanka. Tello, India, then Euros, then Henry. What now? Then in 83, then the government realized that we should ban all Tamil outfits. They got military rings across Tamil areas. Huge amount of riots took place in 83. This is Black July, where Tamil shops were vandalized and they completely stripped the flesh of all Tamil occupants in Colombo, and they made a big banner that even Tamil meat will be sold here. So that amount of hatred has been developed sustainably by the senior leaders for the majoritarian so-called democratic process, which converted into a severe form of violence. India approach to these problems came a big stand because persistently repeated failures by the Indian leaders were reflected even in Lal Sastry and Srimala Maharani had. But Indira Gandhi wanted to show herself as a godmother of Southeast Asia. She had that type of attitude. After the success of carving out a similar linguistic based oppression, where Urdu domination versus Bengali oppression, Bengali suppression, where a democratic movement led up to a violent struggle called Mukti Bahari movement, where Mukti Bahari guerrilla fighters, where the West Bengal of India supported the Mukti Bahari movement militant struggle, where the opposition leaders Jyoti Basu and the then Chief Minister Siddhartha Roy traveled in the same car to campaign to carve out a single Bangladesh out of East Pakistan, where Indira Gandhi went to UN to address it's a refugee problem, so India has a right to intervene to form out a single state called Bangladesh. After the success model, when Indira Gandhi turned down where Sri Lanka always took opposite stand during Indo-China War, she supported the Sinhala supported China. During Indo-Pak War, the Sinhala supported Pakistan. She wanted economic should always be under control of India. Sri Lanka shouldn't allow the base for any other country. If they have any broadcasting unit, it should be a public broadcasting unit. If it's of any foreign affairs, they should not be entertained. Sri Lanka should not entertain. And India will help Sri Lanka in the form of technical and logistics, in the form of radar supply in combating terrorism. So this was the gist of this 1987 Indo-Lanka Accord, where Tamil parties were forced to sign. So when the Tamil rebels stood against this Indo-Lanka Accord, because they very well know that in a unitary constitution, you can't work out a federal solution. You can't give a federal solution in unistructure of constitution, because anyone in future could raise up a point output in a 13th amendment. It's possible in a unitary model of constitution, the amendment becomes null and void, which has happened now. Recently, we very well know that the Sri Lankan Supreme Court has nullified the 13th Amendment, stating that in this framework of unitary structure, no type of federal solution can be offered, which is cleverly played by these Sri Lankan leaders during the time of war getting help from India. So when they boycotted, IPK was sent in order to protect Tamils, took a U-turn. You know the history of IPK excesses, what all happened, how Tamil women were raped by the IPKF. The various human rights organizations, certain books are even banned in India. And later, even Sri Lanka thought the presence of IPKF was alarming to them. They struck a pact with the Tamil Tigers, then they sent IPKF home. Then after that, there was an interim government developed by LTTE. They had a self-ruled government by LTTE was framed up in spite of various economic sanctions. There was police stations run, administrative units run. There are some medical colleges run by LTTE. It was a Tamil-occupied land. For the first time after 200 years, Tamils were ruling in northern and eastern parts of Sri Lanka, except for certain segments. But sustained sustained war campaign was going on. Post-globalization, since this area is a geopolitical area, known for its business interests, known for its trafficking, they didn't want a militant group to dominate. So, I think only in Sri Lankan crisis, the three big countries, India, Pakistan and China, took the same issue. In any other issues, these three countries will fight. But regarding this one particular issue, they took a stand so that we go in for an offensive war against LTTE. And that offensive war, with the involvement of many countries' strategies, implications, with a huge business warfare of cluster bombs and banned pesticide bombs, chemical warfare being purchased all over, being utilized. It was a structured program which was ending in this huge 1,40,000 massacre. So if you read, if any of this International Criminal Crimes Code, Roman statute about genocide and crimes against humanity or war crimes, Sri Lanka followed the exact definition of the genocide. Complete extermination of the people as step one, completely murdering people that they have done successfully. Second, completely eliminating the identity of the people in the form of religion, cultural, and relocating the people that they have done successfully. And third, doing sterilization, so that the compulsory sterilization for unmarried women, so that the generation don't get propagated, or mixing of population, Sinhala and Tamil population, so the subsequent races won't be of an identity. So this structured genocide program, I think Sri Lankan government has copied what all there is genocide and implemented this model in Tamil occupied areas of Sri Lanka. So this worst form of human crisis is being at extreme point. We all talk about war crimes or international criminal code. I think it's only limited to African countries. No big players have come to play a role. So that our demand was, okay, if the LTTE is a military organization, yes, accepted. If they have done war crimes, yes, accepted. But what in Tamil Nadu, as well as in Tamil Nadu, 100% in order to bring out true limelight to the picture, we want an international independent war crime investigations based on human war crime report. It says 40,000 people, the three-member panel says 40,000 people are massacred during the time of war. But cleverly, when this international thing is mounting up, Rajapaksa started panicking in the 2009 India that we will offer the 13th amendment. We will offer 13th plus amendment. Very well knows that will become null and void because he's running a human structure constitution. Our Indian leaders, right from then, External Affairs Minister Pranab Mukherjee, right from Chidambaram, used to dialogue with Sri Lanka and come to address public meetings in Tamil Nadu, saying that we'll work out the ceasefire. They gave innumerable amount of false promises to us. That false promises kept Tamil Nadu, okay, these people, these leaders will do. But each time, whenever a ceasefire information was delivered to us, there was huge large-scale bombing was taking place at that point. So when people are narrowed down into a narrow strip, this narrow strip of Mullivaigal, when excess of cluster bombing was massacred, the plan of Sri Lanka is very much, we are not worried about the plantation Tamils, we are not worried about the Javan Tamils, but we are worried about the ethnic related Tamils because any possibility of re-emergence of any struggle will happen only in the ethnic Tamils. Say they went on for a huge massacre of 1,40,000 people. With the radar facilities, India was keeping quiet. So this situation ends where we are pressing for two things. On the basis of right to self-determination, we ask one. We want international independent war crime investigations and let the sovereignty be decided by the people of Sri Lanka, by the Tamils of Sri Lanka. So let the sovereignty, whether they want to be a Tamil or they want to be in a federal setup or they want to be with the unified Sri Lanka, we are not the deciders outside. As me or my communist friends used to say, we should craft a solution in unified Sri Lanka. Many of the political leaders that we can integrate comes to sovereignty of Sri Lanka. But at the escalation of such amount of war crimes and human rights violation taking place, let the sovereignty people of Sri Lanka, Tamils of Sri Lanka, by giving them a referendum. So let them decide for a referendum. As India supported Sudan referendum, why can't India support a referendum in Sri Lanka? So the people will decide on their own. So India has a signatory of responsibility to protect R2P. India has a signatory of the R2P campaign. This Responsibility to Protect Act says that if a neighboring state fails in delivering human rights violations and human rights crime dealing, a neighboring state can intervene. So India has the utmost responsibility to intervene to facilitate two things: an international independent market investigation and international referendum to give a permanent solution to the ethnic crisis of